Montreal be my city, no over poutine and bad biddies. Those orange tulips and small mates. In abundant greenery, we really about them trees. Mixed community, code switching for the powers to be. Immigration bred beauty, but the master trying to keep us on leash. Twist legalese, propaganda flame, opportunity. Teach the people to snitch over words they see. The Orwellian dream. Hey yo, Valerie, a little something caught my eye. Nice of you to speak for me so kindly. The mirrors for you, we don't need to say hi. She said the English isn't appreciated by minds. She spoke with authority, we know she lied. Stick to the bike path before we vote you out like vibe. This a wide world in a spicy time. I tell them where I'm from, like boss your high, 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 boss your high.
Black man, let me spark a light. New battle, same fight. Different languages, unite. Spread love. Let's start saying bonjour, hi, how you doing? What's your name? Mine is J.S. I'm affluent when I speak French, yes.
What do you think a plant is?
Valerie, planted a seed with a mission to divide through the math you'll see. Speak to me French, I can understand you. Speak to your English, you understand me. We both make money, so tell me what's the beef. Quebec got us feeling like we some enemies. The oppressor tells bold lies. Read between the lines, you can see the slave vibes.
Boss your high, 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 boss your high,
Basics,
boss your high,
HSR.
boss your high, 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 boss your
It's
high.
Montreal, home of the most beautiful women on earth. Put you in the mood, plus the food is so diverse. So many sights to see, yeah, your eyes might hurt. But there's a hidden division, listen where it diverge. Two languages in a constant battle, it seems. Need a microscope to see the stitches and the seams. In the macro view, we should be focused on the green powers that be in between us and the larger industries. What we need is new seeds, like Farine, 5 roses. New ways of thinking that the common man won't oppose. Then we can make some changes that will benefit us all. One hand watches the other hand, let's get it on. The go complains when the you say cool, but why? Being multilingual is a superpower you should try before the presence of our future goes bonjour bye. We should reconsider the picture of bonjour hi.
Elle veut parler pour nous, elle veut parler pour nous, elle veut parler pour nous. On est dans les où c'est que t'as grandi? Une mairesse qui vient pas d'ici déjà c'est senti. Je t'ai parlé, je l'ai ressenti. Ce soir, parce que j'y suis web, je l'ai retranscrit. L'amour, le love, je suis pour bold. Valérie, concentre-toi sur la ville, elle est toute glauque. Mes lignes, ils sont déjà toutes quotes. J't'aborde de me présenter à la mairie en fur coat. Riri, en d'autres mots, réfléchis. La confrontation, c'est pas la bonne stratégie. Le français, c'est d'ennemis comme ça. De l'anglais dans mes bars, j'en ai mis comme ça. Bonjour, hola, konnichiwa. J'suis la version portugaise de retour au bercail. J'marche dans ma vie, j'vois des failles. Nevermind, les moves, on va les faire, oh non. Elle veut parler pour nous. Elle veut parler pour nous. Elle veut parler pour nous. On est tanné tourlou.
Boss your high, 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 boss your. It's probably good to take the hours to smell some flowers. It's probably good to take the hours to smell some flowers. Hey, yo, we motherfucking winning. Get the air in my lungs and my life is given. This moment, I'ma focus on existing. Feel the blood pumping, notice how skin is tingling. There's some friction from my shirt as my body's moving jerked by the train as it lurches, moving forward on the circuit. My destination's purpose lost among the sinners, flourishing. Nice resonance search. That's why I'm centered in my balance, trying to find my golden chalice. My inner I going bad shit, visualize and catch it. Love it when it's action. So shoddy, me and you, we got plans, let's get active. Then it all becomes a blur. To whom it may concern, we don't care if it's absurd. You gon' live your life, we gon' live ours. Be certain your worries ain't a burden as we searching for what's worth it. It's really nothing as it seems. The false societal sell the dream. The wise don't hide unless they scream. The nice to finish just because they tend to lie more than the mean. While the mean do selfish despite what others see. When I was young, my dad would give me shit for not stopping to appreciate the flowers. Now I'm a workaholic, overcommitted fighter, not present me counting hours.
What up, everyone? We are live. I just saw that the timer went past 5 minutes. I was trying to pin some comments. My name is Holden Stefan Roy. I don't... Oh, he's in the waiting room. I guess he was flipping stuff around. Flacco Bayo is about to join this. Liddy Bro Flacco is about to join us. My name is Holden Stefan Roy. We are
I don't know what that was about.
I don't know what happened there either. I don't know who did what. It just happened.
I was checking my front door because I thought I heard like ICE raids in my building, and it wasn't. It was just loud ass Latinas in my building. Nah, I mean, I can't wait for some of these motherfuckers to get fucking raided the fuck out of here. Hey, asshole point number one. You know what? Let's get to the old interview. Let's not give me too much runway to start being an asshole. This will turn into an episode of me talking shit about the political climate and things that are going on right now.
If you do want that, you could go to patreon.com/perspectives and pay us some money, and then you can get Flacco to rant about ICE all day long.
Word.
But on that note, what we're doing today is what we're probably going to be doing for the next little bit as life kind of gets replanned, is we're rewatching. What's up, Lindell? We're rewatching old episodes on a mission to try to find clippable moments and also migrate content from one channel to another. So it's kind of a way to like we streaming an interview that's on another channel, so it'll come over to our youtube.com/perspectives. Perspectives podcast is the URL. And yeah, if you notice anything that you think is interesting or clippable or something really cool, let us know. And what I've been doing and what we're doing together is looking for time-stamped, like moments that we can timestamp that we can then turn into clips later on when we get to really pushing promo and some of the things we have planned for the better part of the year. In the meantime, the prep work is to go through the old ones, and we have this big old catalog of content we've captured that's fantastic, that needs to be highlighted in smarter ways. So that's what we're here today. It's good to have you with us, and we look forward to seeing what you think as we go through it. On that note, we could jibber jabber, as Flacco said, or we could get into this where, boom, shared the screen, full screening it, and we are definitely increasing the speed to like a 1.5 because it's a total mugshot 1. Right. And we're going to get into it. There we go.
Welcome, my friends, to Bridge the Gap. This is the show that we put together here. A little bit, let me explain the title to you. So, Bridging the Gap of Knowledge. The idea is you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of insight into a lot of things that guys like me, who came into like the hip-hop culture late in life and are kind of going back and hitting up the Googles and are trying to understand, it's not there. You can't find a lot of this information. So we are trying to bridge the gap of knowledge out there so we can pick your brain and learn a whole lot of stuff about a whole lot of different things. But also bridges. It's because, I'm from Montreal, y'all from New York, and you know what's cool about bridges? It's very significant to both of our cities. So it's like a common ground between us off the jump as we bridge a little gap over here. So, being the second guest that we have on this series is amazing, Mr. Iron Solomon. You are like very, very interesting guy to look into. I'm not even gonna lie. I've watched some of your interviews. I'm gonna confess this off the jump. I'm not really a battle rap guy, so I just got introduced to a lot of battle rap stuff. Looking into a little bit, I got to see a whole culture I'm not necessarily exposed to. So just so you know that coming into it, this guy is a fucking legend in that regard. His stuff is so entertaining to watch. Okay, but not only is it that, the man has music. Now, I know there's a reputation, and I saw the disses and shit, but I'm listening to your music earlier today, and I'm like, yo, why did I know about this when I'm 21? This is everything 21-year-old me wants out of fucking music. We was just bumping it on the stream. Dog, it's so fire. Your bars are so good. It's so good to me. Like, I'm just saying the fact that, and it's even more than that, right? Because the man is the full package kind of artist. There is a consistency between the way he presents himself in the battle rap scene. There's a consistency to the way that gets carried over to his lyricism inside of the music. You can see it inside of his interviews, and when you find out some of the crazy shit I found out he's up to today, it's just fucking nuts. Yo, Iron Solomon's a fucking legend, and everybody needs to know that. That's my introduction.
Appreciate you, man.
So I'm glad to have you here, sir. Let's get into the first question, and this is a little bit of my stock question, and for you, I know in advance it's a very special question. So the question kind of goes, it's a bit of a story. It's how it's tangents, it's okay, all that good stuff. So I'm sitting there, my girlfriend's washing some dishes, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas shit. I got a feeling, that shit there, right? So that shit was a club hit, right? At one point, we was all up there getting drunk, dancing to that, etc. But now it's chores music for her, and it got me thinking a lot about musical journeys, okay? Because that means that like when we was kids, and my mom was bumping her discos, and my dad was bumping his Zeppelins, that was their chores music, because that was their turn up music once upon a time. So that got me going, yo. the musical journey really starts there when the parents are telling us what we're listening to before we discover our own musical identity. Now, I know that this is a special question in your regard. I know it is. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the music that surrounded you growing up from your mom's side, from your dad's side? Because your mom's side too, I know your dad's a special case, but like the vibes, like when there was chores, when it was the car. I want to know a little bit more about the different landscapes more than just the specifics, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the super thoughtful intro too, and that it makes my day to hear that type of feedback. And I also just respect as a journalist to like deep dive and really doing the background. So I appreciate you for having me, and shout out to my man Dutch. We rep the Liddy Bros today all day.
Yeah.
So appreciate you for facilitating this. That's my brother in so many different ways. So yeah, I mean, both my pops and my mom are both musicians, and my mom is a singer. Jazz singer, classical singer, and also play the flute. And my pops is like super multi-instrumentalist. Piano keys is his main thing, but also guitar, bass, and an arranger is his like calling. So we always had a piano in the house. Depending on what my dad's employment was, if he was working full time, he might have his a studio outside of the house. But then when he was freelancing, he would bring his equipment home, and we would have like studio level stuff in the crib. And they both, but my dad in particular, I think were always interested in whatever the new, like cutting edge, like he always wanted to explore new things. So like, I remember he had this dresser drawer that was like as tall as me when I was a kid, that was just full of cassette tapes, and it was like every genre, you know what I mean? And I would just go in there and dig, and it would be reggae and classic rock and blues and jazz and soul music. And then, like my real like deep first introduction to hip hop in like really listening was when Straight Outta Compton came out. He actually bought Straight Outta Compton on tape and played it like in the family car on like a road trip, which sounds crazy now.
Do you remember how old you were?
I mean, let's look up what year that was. I mean, it's pretty young.
Straight Outta Compton as an album is 87, if I'm not mistaken.
So yeah, like five years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm 82. And then I remember, kind of taking it for granted, and then getting a little bit older and having friends who were older talking about stuff, and me being like, oh yeah, the tape cover with the guys with the gun, like aiming down, and they'd be like, yeah, I'd be like, yo, let's go to the dresser. Like my pop's got that tape, you know what I mean? So, it was really everything. And he's the type of musician where if there was a song that I liked, because I play guitar too. I studied guitar as a kid. And so if there was a song that I liked, I could go to him and press play, and he could play it on the piano, like first listen, you know what I mean? So, yeah, music was always a thing in my house. I was always with my pops at the recording studio when he was working on stuff.
Do you mind if I just ask a little extra question I forgot to bring up?
Sure.
Like we just pretending right now that you haven't done all these interviews and stuff a little bit. I'm not going to ask boring questions, but just for the sake of some facts for the people who don't know you. Sure. Where are you from? I know you're from.
I'm from New York. I'm from Manhattan, Upper West Side. My pops is from Queens, Rockaway, and my mom is from Connecticut. Okay. But yeah, New York, born and raised.
So I just say that because when he says go to the studio, we're not talking about like go to the studio up in some bootleg place. Now we're talking about New York fucking city, people. Okay. I just want you to understand the actual magical significance of what the fuck that actually means. Okay. Anyway, please go on, sir.
No, for sure. Yeah. And actually, my dad, like, his big breakthrough in his career when I was like a baby was Little Shop of Horrors. So he arranged the music for Little Shop of Horrors when it was like super off Broadway, no, just a little tiny production. And then he was with the production when it became a Broadway show. And then when they turned it into a motion picture, it was all in England, because in London they had the biggest like indoor sound stage, and all of those scenes like on the streets and everything is actually indoors in a studio, a sound stage, a huge sound stage that's like multiple blocks. And so when I was like 3.5 to 4.5, we lived in London, and I was around like the dude from the Four Tops, who passed, rest in peace, Levi Stubbs, I believe is his name, was the voice of the plant, you know what I mean? And Tashina Arnold and Pam and Gina like were the backup singers on Little Shop of Horrors, from Martin. And so like I was a little kid around them while they were filming the movie, and the stories I hear is that I was very vocal at 4 years old, like, nah, sing it like this, sing it like that. So I was just around music all of the time. And then my mom, at the same time my pops was making his like creative come up, my mom was in the music industry, and she went from being like a secretary at RCA to eventually being like a VP of business affairs at BMG. And
we should clip this, and you know what? We should make a running with everybody, that all these that we're reviewing, and all of them. Nah, I get it. Listen, I'm listening to you.
I was about to message Chris as you said that and be like, bro, go right now and grab this part and clip it.
Yeah, word. I'm gonna say we should do this for everyone, which is part of what we're doing, right? And everybody should have their origin story or their Iron Solomon life growing up. So we clip this Iron Solomon life growing up. Rashid Nunzio, life growing up. Everybody
Right.
who we
Let me
review,
grab
all
that as a
these
note.
people. Let's get all their life growing up and create a series of life growing up, because we've covered people's life growing up who've never had their life growing up covered, and that's really
That's a
important.
fact.
And that's important that we document that for ourselves and be the ones that have that out there for the world.
Yeah, we could create a specified playlist for that. In some cases, we may already have the clips, and then we can figure it out. But I was thinking specifically the Little Shop of Horrors, like Iron Solomon telling the Little Shop of Horrors people what to do or whatever. It would be like a fucking really fun clip. And yeah, that would be like a good 90-second short or something. So yeah, that's what I think we're on the same page. But
dealing with Sony and Def Jam and negotiating, contracts. So I would go from the studio with my dad to the label office with my mom's and go to the closet with all the CDs and just be able to pull whatever CDs, when people were doing like a penny for 8 CDs type shit. Like I would just go to my mom's office and go to the closet and just get the joints with the hole screwed in it, the promotional joints with the little, Dutch knows what I'm talking about. Like, so
yeah, so you got the music before it was released? Like you were able to hear all the cuts before they came out, or were you getting it like after?
Or it would be like they used to have promotional joints that would be like they would either print on it like for promotional use, not for resale, or they would like drill a hole in it. So you would get a CD that was the real thing when it came out, but it would be like for DJs or whatever. And so she would have a whole closet, there was just like a closet on the floor, a room basically, where you could go in and be like, just take whatever was there for promotional use. And so yeah, as long as it was on her label when stuff was coming out, and I would have friends that would be like, yo, I was the link to give, I was giving people CDs and all that stuff. So for me, just music was always a big part of my life. You know what I mean? Are
you okay with answering a question straight from the comments? Because we got a question from Crap Lips up in Montreal, CL. He's fucking great. He wants to know, where did your parents meet?
My parents met at a party. My mom was actually married one time before my dad, and they met at a party. Yeah, I don't know, like if it was just like a house party type thing. You know what I mean? And yeah. I wish I had a better story than that. But,
but the fact is, CL wanted to know. We answered him. Yeah. That's what I love about the magic of the Twitch, is that we can have that interactions. It's okay. Anyway, it's Revere actually. I thought it was somebody else. It's Revere from Montreal. My bad. They have a very similar Twitch generic name. I apologize. Now I feel like a silly host. Let's go back to your story though, because that is an insane musical upbringing. And the thing about your catalog that really caught my ears, as I was listening to your musical versatility on your album. And I believe you made all the beats and stuff. If I heard that in another interview, I could be wrong. But if that's the case, I can hear the musicality, and I can hear the fact that you're pulling from like a gajillion inspirations and sources across these different songs that are just like completely out there. But like when you then listen to what you had going on inside of your life, going on as a kid, it's like you had no choice. You were like in YouTube before YouTube. If you think about your world, you had like because when I talk to the young ones about their life growing up, they're like YouTube this, YouTube that, YouTube this. Like since I'm young, I listen to everything. But you literally have that in an era where nobody else did. That's fucking crazy. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, that's a way to think about it. I never thought about it like that, but it's true. And then the backdrop being New York City, it's like it's so accessible. It's like I got. My older cousin was a guitar player and he had a Les Paul guitar. So I was like, yo, and Slash had a Les Paul guitar. And like, I wanted to be, before I wanted to be Jay-Z, I wanted to be Slash, you know what I mean? And so I had a Les Paul guitar, and then it's like, oh, Les Paul plays every Tuesday night at Fat Tuesdays. Like, and my parents were just like, I couldn't like go sleep at the homie's crib on Tuesday night and like go party, but they were like, we'll take you to the jazz club and you could go see Les Paul, you know what I mean? So, and then it's like, when you get into hip hop, it's like, oh, like that's what all this paint on this train means. Like, so really it's the combination of the household and the support that my parents had for like culture. They were like, if there's anything cultural that we wanted to get involved in, me and my brother, it was like they were going to facilitate that. And then having New York as the backyard, and especially like in the 80s and 90s, it was such a patchwork of cultures. And it's not like today where you'll have like miles and miles of like safe, clean neighborhoods. It's like where I lived around a corner. When I was a little kid, and then and it was all halfway houses, and so it's prostitutes and dope dealers in the street, and then we moved around a corner and it's a doorman building, you know what I mean? And walk from West End to Broadway, and there's this the crackhead prostitutes giving a hand job to this dude, and then you get to Broadway and it's Broadway.
Like actually doing that? Like you got okay.
Yeah,
I might like stop you like that because it seems like a silly thing to question, but just to justify it. New York is like this mythical place to me, and I noticed while talking to guys like Flacco Bayo, it's that there's a lot of stuff to you that is just your life. That to me is this magical place called New York that like I know about in like an ethereal, mystical, through hip hop kind of way. So you hear stuff like that, like you hear that, but you don't like, it's like you grow up in a place like Montreal and it's relatively safe. Okay, like it's not like, I'm not saying it's the best place in the world, but it's not that at all. At least not anywhere I live. I mean, there might be places, but so like to hear you say it quite literally, that's part of your growing up experience and shit. That's actually like I think more people benefit from hearing that that's a real thing that people witnessed, because I don't know that everyone understands that some of this music that gets put out, especially golden era hip hop, isn't being hyperbolic. It's reporting on actual circumstances. Like when you go, I mean, I don't know how, we don't have to go down that path per se, but when you look at the history of New York City's political situations, like it kind of is cool that you give testament to a lot of the weight that a lot of people are saying by, giving us this part of your story. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. And just with the whole like bridging the gap theme, I mean, I feel like, I'm super fortunate to have that upbringing because, I went to private school when I was younger, and then I also went to public school. And then, in New York, it's like you have friends that you're like, oh yeah, I know him from high school, but you didn't go to high school together. It's just that like, you're already applying to schools or choosing different schools to go to in junior high. Whereas somewhere else you might be like, nah, this is the local junior high. And then we all go to the same high school. In New York, you bounce around so much. So it's like your man from junior high goes to this high school and then he clicks up with these people, and that's your people's too. And so like, I have like, I had friends that I know like from high school that I didn't actually go to high school with that went to, Fieldston or these private schools where it's like I would go to house parties where they live in a penthouse on the Upper East Side, and their balcony goes around the whole crib, and you could fit 100 people on the balcony and nobody's in the crib. But then I had friends who's, raised by their grandmother, and their mom was on drugs and their pops wasn't really in the picture. And so I think that having that experience and seeing all those different walks of life, it was a really important part of my upbringing, and something that I always want to communicate and bridge the gap, and be able to be a voice for all sides of that equation, so that people can kind of understand each other more. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot more humanity that binds us than there are differences that divide us. You know what I mean? So that's why the bridge the gap theme is super appealing to me, because I feel like that's a big part of my upbringing. You know what I mean? I
could definitely relate to that. I went to a high school that was multicultural. Like that was like its big claim to fame. There was like 280 people from like fucking 40 different countries represented in that little place. So I can kind of relate a little bit to the sentiment that you're going from. And there was a lot of socioeconomic mixes in that place, and it kind of created this strange little place that that it just kind of lets me relate a little bit to that experience that you had. But let's move on a bit to the next part of your story, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions about parts of your career, but I think it's actually really important to walk through your story so that we can properly answer those questions related to the more, hyped up parts of that. Because I want to know a little bit about the start of your musical identity. That would be the next part of your musical journey in the way I'm mapping things out. So basically, my question is more around puberty is what we've mapped it, that era of life. People go from, this is what my parents have, this is what's whatever, to I like this. This is what I want. And I know you touched on Slash and wanting to be a rock star a bit. So when did that moment happen for you? How old were you? And do you remember exactly what that moment was like? And kind of bring us into a little bit of that part of your life.
Yeah, so I went to private school like through 6th grade, so that's like up to the age 12. And in private school, it was like, Red Hot Chili Peppers were super big. We listened to, but also like, Nice and Smooth and Eric B and Rakim, and then like I said, NWA and Stone Temple Pilots, and then Bob Marley, and all the kind of like old like 60s and 70s stuff was really popular. Like in a back then, it was like almost like a revival. You know what I mean? And then I went to public school. Actually, I went to public school starting in 6th grade, so I was 11. And that era is when like Wu-Tang and Biggie and the Fugees, you know what I'm saying, and Beastie Boys, and like for me, I think really like the Fugees and Wu-Tang, the sound, like I was always into like weird shit. Like I like the music that sounds. I like pop music in terms of like Nirvana is poppy, like it's catchy, and it's song
super repetitive
song
too.
Structures, right, but it's mad weird and edgy, and so I was always into the weird, like edgy shit, and like Wu-Tang was so dark, and it was this world that they were painting, but then they were pulling in from this patchwork of influences, and for me, like you said, like because I grew up in a YouTube like environment, it all felt like it came together, and it's like hip hop is collage art. You know what I mean? That's like the
I'm gonna have to ask for you to elaborate on what you mean.
Yeah, so like that's really the essence of hip hop culture is collage art, and me later in life studying African religion and studying the history of hip hop and the African diaspora and the Black experience in America. Like I understand now that collage art is a pretty distinctly like African aesthetic. When you think about the European like classical music style, that's like a wall of sound where you hear the strings and the horns, but it's blended together in a way that's, it's all complementary. And there's a more of a space in African culture for dissonance, for pleasing dissonance, where you have things that clash. And even in the modern era, it's like you'll see pictures of people that may have like these fibers that they're pulling from nature and weaving into their hair, but then there might be like a Coke bottle or like a bullet, and it's this use of these different materials that seem like they're coming from different places, and they clash, but they clash successfully. You know what I mean? And so I think, I personally believe that like, humanity comes from Africa. And so there's something inside of us that there's like these ancient, like just in our DNA, the feeling of that aesthetic and the feeling of this, there's this tradition called the ring shout where you have, a community of people, like whether it's playing percussion or singing and dancing. And then there's one person who's like in the circle testifying on top of that. I feel like the reason hip hop resonates in such a global way, and Black music in general resonates in such a global way, is because this is like our ancestral, humanity's ancestral rhythms and ancestral forms of communication and expression. And then on top of it, the fact that like, I can take something from Slash and I can mix it with the James Brown that I like, and then I can rap words on top of that, and then I can use this little Bob Marley vocal snippet, and like everything that I think is the dopest shit from all of the different realms of life that I'm influenced by, like, has a place in hip hop. It's the ultimate postmodern like collage art form that's just literally referencing everything that came before it. Whereas if you're going to do country music, you may just have a certain type of instrumentation that's specific to that genre. And not saying that there isn't room for outside influences, but hip hop deliberately references like everything in culture, whether it's cartoons or kung fu flicks or rock and roll, soul music. Like there's literally a place for all of culture inside of hip hop. And I think for my YouTube type upbringing, it just felt like the pinnacle of I always would like one or two songs on an album where I was like, these are the best songs. I don't even want to listen to the other songs. And so for me, hip hop was like a greatest hits of culture, where it's like, whatever, that's your favorite part of the song, those drums, just play that part over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was doing for myself anyway. So it just kind of like all came together for me. You know what I mean?
Dude, like I have this thing when people drop knowledge nuggets, that's what I call them. That's like words of big time wisdom. I don't think I've ever heard anybody use such a level of intellectualism to like break down and justify sampling at an ethical level to being like a great. That's what you just did though. He broke down and ethically justified sampling as the biggest compliment possible, because it opens up hip hop to the world, and not just sampling, but the idea of paying homage and respect to what came before you. And I love everything you just said, dude. That was a lot to take in. So I'm properly not giving you the just dues, but that was amazing. We got comments on the Twitch going, "Yo, that was fucking fire too." It's just such a unique and maybe not unique, but it's such an enlightening way to look at hip hop culture that personally I've never heard before. But you fucking just opened my eyes in a different way of thinking about all of it. And so I want to thank you for that. And I think everybody watching, when we cut this into a little YouTube clip after, they're all going to appreciate it there too. But yo, that's amazing, dude. I love your brain. I love the way you think about shit. It's just so fucking cool. So feel free to at any time do whatever tangents you want. That's totally cool, because all this is gold to me.
Hell yeah.
But so basically, when did you start to get into the Slash and get into your own kind of thing? Because this was a great tangent, but I think we got to go back to your story a little bit. When did that start for you, if you remember?
Yeah, I started taking guitar lessons at like 9 years old. And like, I was just kind of like I was an insecure kid, but like it came off as like cocky sometimes, because like I think I was starved for attention, you know what I mean? And so I would want to, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable like going up to a girl and just having a conversation, but I would be like, let me play guitar in front of everybody, and then maybe they'll come to me and have a conversation, you know what I mean? So for me, it was always like, I just was like, I think I just wanted attention, you know what I mean? And like wanted to be like the coolest. And so like Slash was just the coolest thing in the world. And then I had an older cousin, like I said, who played guitar that I looked up to. And that was like, like I remember like finding a used condom in his room and being like, I need to play guitar, son. Like I need my room to look like this, you know what I mean? So I think it was just like, it was about that, loving music and feeling like that was my path to be, I wasn't going to be the star quarterback, but I could be like the guitar player, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I really was writing rhymes at the same time, like 9, 10 years old. But I don't know that I like after a little while, I wasn't sure that I saw, like, I understood how I fit in as a white dude, right? Into that, you know what I mean? I didn't know exactly how to make sense of that. And I think that when I went to public school and was a little more like, around a broader diversity of people and included more in not just seeing the final product of the culture, you know what I mean? Not just buying an album or whatever it is, but like actually being in math class and we're, being on a table and freestyling and like really being a part of that 11, 12, 13, like, I think that really kind of opened my eyes to it. And then by the time I got to high school, I just, all right, you're still figuring out.
So we're gonna get to high school, because we're not even done with this question. You said getting a little ahead, but before we do, my mom's is on the stream. So shout out, mommy. Dope. It's amazing to have you here watching one of the coolest moments of my life right now. That's fucking dope. So you always want your mom at the show when something cool is happening. So that's like fucking cool. Anyhow, I want to know about which hip hop brought you into it. You may have said it before, but just to kind of like bring it in, what kind of was this hip hop that you were encountering at this time? What were some of these early influences into it that inspired some of these first raps and things like that? And any chance, do you remember like a 12-year-old Iron Solomon little rhyme you could spit?
There's a 9-year-old one that was like, I had these two friends whose names were Ben, and they were like, they were mad cool and popular and shit. And like, I remember being like, yo, we got to have a rap group. And this is like private school. And it was like, me, Ben, and Ben, each sitting in a chair with our pad and our pencil and our slick back hair. That's all I remember. But I had I had like a whole joint written out. And like, I was the one who was like, I think they were popular enough that they were like, they didn't have the motivation. But I was like, nah, we got to make this happen, B. You know what I mean? So like, I had the vision and was like, I'm not going to be the third wheel. Like, we're gonna make this pop. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think, and it, for me, it really was like Fugees, The Score, right. Wu-Tang, Biggie. It was just those soundscapes even just like going, I went to school on like 70th Street, and there used to be a Tower Records on 72nd, and we were allowed to leave school for lunch. And so we would like take the train to the arcade, or we would go to Tower Records, and we used to go in there and switch the price tags. Like you go to the sale bin and take a price tag off the sale bin joint and like put it on a regular joint. So whatever like I couldn't get from my mom's that wasn't like on the labels that she was a part of, we would go in there and like either steal them or switch the labels and shit like that. And I just remember going into the hip hop section and seeing like the poster of Method Man with the stocking cap over his face with the hole cut in his eye and the gold teeth, and just being like, yo, like this is like scary. Like this is the illest, like weirdest, like edgiest shit like that. Like this is bugged out, and wanting to just like be a part of that. You know what I mean? And I also had a friend at the time, Miles, who was really into political and like social justice stuff. So I actually started this thing called.
Can I just stop?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we can just put it on wax. Social justice wasn't invented this decade. It's been around for a minute.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Nah, like I definitely like, you know, for me, I was always into just like right and wrong was like a big thing for me. Like what's fair. Like I was always into fairness. You know, like kids are like, that's not fair. And I was definitely one of those kids that was like needed things to be fair. And I always just felt like I saw, you know, my parents are like, obviously we're pretty progressive, and my pops was like a really like extreme hippie when he like during the hippie era, he really just like abandoned society. And so I always was raised with these kind of principles, and always wanted to fight for the little person, you know what I'm saying? Fight for the person who is disenfranchised. And so we started this organization called Act Your Rage, and it was like act your age, but also like act,
and how old are you when you're doing this?
Probably like 14.
Holy shit.
Like 14, 15. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting. Cool shit, dude.
Yeah. And we used to go to like all of the, you know, all of the like rallies and, you know, all of the Free Mumia was like a big movement at that time. And I was around like Ramona Africa and the move, you know, out of Philly, like just was kind of always like in that headspace. And then with, you know, had an older homie who was really like focused on that and kind of brought me into the fold with all of that. You know what I mean? So I was definitely into like Rage Against the Machine, you know, anything that kind of like spoke about those issues started to really appeal to me, you know? And yeah, just that vibe and the ability to write what you feel, because, you know, rock and roll and these other genres are more like a movie a lot of the times, where it's not necessarily like, you know, you're not necessarily, you know, like you think about Pearl Jam, Jeremy, you know, they're singing a song about somebody it's not their life, it's about somebody else. Or, you know, I think the first person perspective of hip hop with the kind of collage background for me is what really like made me be like, yeah, this is it, you know, like I can mix everything and I can say a lot of things with it. You know what I mean?
I definitely relate to that. I mean, for myself, just because I feel like you're giving me a lot, it's fair to give you a little bit back. I'm 12 when new metal pops. So, like, I guess when Linkin Park is like my first favorite band. So in a lot of ways, I empathize heavy with how you see music at this age, because it really does reflect what I grew up with. Maybe I don't have the YouTube life, but like I'm like the one age generation that's going to go new metal's the shit and is grateful it's coming back in full force today, because I told y'all that shit was dope. Anyhow, but like, so it's really cool to hear you say this, because like just as a fan of music, even to this day, I'm not like, I mean, I love hip hop. Hip hop is like my number one love. But maybe when it comes to music, I'm a bit polyamorous, right? That's how I'm going to put it. Yeah. I'm all over you. I'm a bit of a slut. I'm going to be real with you.
Word.
And so the way I'm hearing you, I feel like we have a kinship there where you're also kind of like that. And not everybody can relate to that. Some people's hardcore to their fucking genre, and that's their whole identity. So I like the fact that your identity is versatility. And that's something that I relate with heavy. So thank you again for sharing that with us.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I guess what point then, because the next question kind of is tied into all of this. So you're being exposed to a bunch of shit. So somewhere along this way, you must be like, yo, I'm gonna take this serious. This is it for me. When is the moment where you're like, I'm gonna be a rapper? Also, feel free to shout out what high school you went to, just for the hell of it, because I don't see it.
I went to Stuyvesant. Yeah, I went to the junior high school I went to was called Center School. It was like a magnet school, and a bunch of people like Claire Danes went there. She was like a year or two older than us. But I knew her kind of because I always had like older homies that would kind of take me around and shit like that. And also my man Den 10. Who was like one of the original Dot Mob members who, Dutch, I don't know if you've seen Mook and Lux on Drink Champs, but they told a story about Den 10, like battling DMX. Yeah. So Den 10 was like my man in junior high school, which is like mad weird. It's like such a small world. Yeah. He was the one who I used to like freestyle and rap with in class. So yeah, I went to the center school, and then for high school, I went to Stuyvesant, which is like a geek, you know, like a math and science high school.
Yo, that's interesting.
Yeah. Diverse, but pretty limited, you know what I mean? Like I definitely didn't like it there really. You know what I mean? I like my peoples that I have from there, but like I don't really like the administration or what the school is about. But it's a public school, but you gotta test your way in. And I was always good at standardized tests. And so my parents were kind of like, yo, you know, they see it differently. Like they don't remember this, but I remember them being like, yo, if you get into Stuyvesant, which is supposed to be like the #1 high school, like you kind of got to go. So like I was supposed to try out for LaGuardia, which is like, you know, the movie Fame is like based on that. It's like performing arts and music and visual arts. And I had auditions set up for music, and I had an audition set up for visual arts, and I had a portfolio of like drawings and stuff that I was doing. But I don't think I even showed up to the auditions because I had gotten into Stuyvesant, and my parents were kind of like, yo, you know, like that on your resume is going to be ill. So
yo, I'm gonna jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
That is huge, bro. Like those two names for high schools, like here in New York City, Holden, that's like the top of the cream of the crop, you know. Like I had mentioned in the comments that I didn't get into art and design. Like I had applied and I had tested and everything. I didn't get in. You know what I mean? And that was like a hurtful, like it hurt my heart. You know what I mean? Like what? I couldn't make it in. Like those two schools are even higher than art and design. And art and design is, if for us outer borough kids, Manhattan is the goal for a high school, and those schools are all like the cream of the crop. It's crazy.
But and I would still kick it at LaGuardia. Like I said, it's like, you know, people, I know him from high school. It's like, you know, I mean, Dutch knows Brady, like my boy Brady, who I went to junior high school with, went to LaGuardia with Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? Like they were in class together, you know? And so, so like I would still, you know, it's like I'm gonna leave a little early and I'm gonna cut school and go be outside of LaGuardia when they get out, and then we'll all kick it there. Or like I'll take a train to the weed spot and then go up to Old State to the private school and go meet up with kids up there. And like, so, you know, you in the city, it's like you just kind of go travel everywhere. It's an adventure, you know what I mean?
So before we go on though, I just want to like tie that back into your music, and because math, science, logic, that's the first thing I think. Music's a language, right? So music's a very and when we think about your battle raps and their significance, one of the things the thing that caught out to me a lot is your gin battle, when he decided to like freestyle completely, and you came in with the structure and compositional element where it seemed like within your head you were timing shit, math cadence, ready to fucking go. And I saw that. And so the fact that you were able, like, you can see it early on then if you trace your story, that you had that level of thinking that would allow you to bring that level of shit to the table. So I'm grateful you shared that, because it actually just ties directly into your fucking story and your musical career and explains so much about how you approach your rhymes to me. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it avoided me having to ask that boring ass question that you probably get a million times. So anyhow, so you were basically in this place where you're exposed to a bunch of shit. I guess, when do you start doing it for reals? When does it become like a thing you do?
I mean, you know, my pops, I think, like maybe lost his job or decided to go back to being freelance or something when I was in high school, and so he brought all of his equipment home from where he was at. And so all of a sudden, like, you know, we're freestyling and beatboxing, and like, you know, Rozelle is like one of my idols at the time, and I'm like writing graffiti and, you know, trying to break dance and like just engage in everything. And then all of a sudden now there's like a home studio in the crib. You know what I mean? So that's when I was like, had my pops show me how to use, like, at the time it was Performer. I think it was even before Digital Performer. And, you know, so I was like sequencing with MIDI on the computer and a keyboard, and have the dial up patches on the rack units, and then, recording vocals to like an ADAT, you know what I mean? So that's probably like 16, maybe 17, maybe a little younger, that I started like making beats, you know what I mean? And trying to, and actually trying to put songs together.
All right,
so like throughout high school.
We got to talk about that. Talk about the technology. Talk about the literal components of how young you started making beats. Because we were learning about dubbing on the last one, where like the guy would take the tape, and so for me that was novel information. Pretend I don't know this stuff inherently, like a lot of y'all cats do. Explain it to me and all the other ignorant folk out there what you actually did.
Yeah. So Digital Performer, I think, I don't even know if it's Digital Performer was the name yet, but basically that's like the way I was using it was as a sequencer. So what a sequencer is, which is it uses MIDI, which stands MIDI, which stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And if you think about like, you ever see like a piano roll where you like wind it up and it's got the little bumps on it, and it spins and like triggers the notes. MIDI is basically like a digital version of that, where what you're not recording audio sounds, you're recording information about, it's like digital information of like, I pressed the C note at this time, this hard, and I held it for this long, and then I let it go at this time. And so once you have the kind of like digital information in there, then that is being sent through a MIDI cable to, like, at that time, to a rack unit, which is like, you see the racks of the you know, equipment with the blinking lights. It's like you would have a rack unit that might have just bass sounds, because, you know, at that time the memory storage is not like it is today, where you can have, your cell phone can have all the production equipment you need. You have to have like a bass sound rack. So now I can like let the bass line play with the piano roll basically, and then I can cycle through the different bass sounds and like pick out the right bass sound. But then if you shut that down and want to bring it back up another day, you have to now like write down which bass sound you used and all this stuff, because what you have in the computer is just that piano roll information, and you don't have the actual sounds. You have to actually go back to the rack unit and pick out the snare again and pick out the kick. So just to, like, you can't just turn your equipment back on and be like, let me go back to that beat I was working on. You got to take like a half hour to dial it all back up to get to when you stopped the last time you were at, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the kind of, but even then that was like super blessing to have access to that shit, because, you know, I'm a kid and I have this, like, it was still state of the art, like cutting edge technology. You know what I mean? So that was the foundation for kind of my understanding of the studio, or my comfort with engaging in like digital production. You know what I mean?
Yo, again, I want to thank you for sharing that, because in my opinion, that was helpful to even explain some stuff the other guy was talking about. Like, sometimes it's hard to even visualize it. So the more times we can all learn it, we can appreciate it when the OGs are like, y'all don't understand how spoiled you are with your technology and your pro tools. Because I didn't actually really understand how spoiled I am. I get mad when it takes a minute to load some shit, dude. I'm spoiled as shit.
Me too now. Yeah, no, me too now, man. It's like, with, you know, it's like, you know, it'll fill the container that it's in. The more that you have, the more that you want, you know?
But yo, that's really cool. So at what point then, I guess you have access to all this stuff, and I'm gonna keep saying at what point because I'm just kind of high at this moment. But what like point do you really start like moving towards? I don't know. Does the music songwriting appealing first? At what point does like battle rap become a thing? You're a young guy at this point. You finish high school at some point. You have access to gear. I don't know if there's anything I'm missing in that era that you want to touch on before moving over there. But yeah, that's up to you. What you want to share still?
Yeah, I mean, like toward the end of the '90s. Like I was in high school from like '96 to 2000. So, we're battling like outside of school on the street, like going to house parties and like trying to find whoever rhymes and just fuck them up. And then going to like Wetlands was this like legendary venue in New York that's not around anymore. Wetlands, Tramps, Knitting Factory, New Eurekan, like these were the places that would have open mics or have battles. And I was just like, back then it's like the internet isn't how it's just kind of emerging, and it wasn't really how it is now. You'd have to go get the Village Voice, which was like a free paper, and go to the back of the Village Voice, and it would be like, who's performing at SOBs, who's performing at Wetlands, like, and is there, what night is a battle going on or an open mic, and just like trying to figure that out, and then convince the homies to roll. And just going to those events, going to Fat Beats, being outside of Fat Beats in the stairwell, seeing who's there. And Fat Beats was a legendary record store. Now I think it's like still a label and distribution, but they used to have a physical location downtown in a village, and like it was a hub. It was a hub of culture, a hub of like underground music. We were all staying up late to listen to Stretch and Bobbito and recording the shows, and just trying to find, like, it was like a chase. Like again, it's like I think there's a lot of value that the internet has brought, but in that time, the way that the culture was like, if you wanted some sneakers that nobody had, you had to make moves. You had to go around a city and find a little store in a neighborhood that people didn't really go to and see what kind of backstock they had of some colorway that wasn't released. And then if you wanted to find, if you wanted to hear a song, you had to stay up late and listen to the radio, because you'd have to have a DJ play it on, a vinyl, and then you would tape it off the show, or there wasn't really a way to be exposed to new music. And I think there was something dope about the hunt for like exclusivity, and then also style was a little more localized, where like you could be in your little corner of the city, like cooking up a way to wear your pants or a way to wear your hat, or thinking of a different brand that nobody wears, or a different way of rhyming or breakdancing, or how to freak your letters if you're writing graffiti, and then kind of debut it to the world. And even though we're all in New York, like when you go to the show at SOBs, or you go to the battle at Wetlands, it still was like a melting pot of different styles, because there is no internet where as soon as you wear your hat a certain way, it's all over the world, and the kids in Japan are wearing it that way the next morning. You know what I mean? It was more like you had months and years to kind of develop your style before you would debut it, and then everybody is debuting their own unique style at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yo, I'm glad you shared that too, man. This is that context that explains so much. Like when you go back to like a Wu-Tang, right? So I bought the Wu-Tang manual, and what I thought was super interesting is how RZA takes some time at the very, very beginning of the book to describe the uniform. Right? Like it's like specific to them. So I'm guessing, I'm going to just guess it. It's the Staten Island way. And that's going to be different than where you're at on your side. But yo, Flacco was showing me like maps the other day and circling stuff around and explaining like all these things being just different areas, and how like much changes. And because I got a little bit confused, I'm not going to lie. I was watching one of your battles and it was like Harlem, New York, and then New York. And I'm like, yo, why did it say New York? What the fuck does that even mean? I thought that's all New York. So he explained it to me, and that it's where you're from, the east side. That's how y'all do it. But it was just
West, yeah.
Sorry, I don't even, dude, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to keep up with my New York geography. It was never my strongest suit, okay? I'm good with math and numbers. You give me geography and I get a little bit confused. It is what it is. One day I'm gonna come down to New York and I'll map it out. But yo, it was cool. It was cool just to like, learn about all of this stuff. And I realized that too, a lot of people that aren't from New York, these stories, this kind of context, like, look, it's really useful stuff. Like it helps us translate, like almost like in a sense a Rosetta Stone way of like understanding hip hop culture at its roots, because at the end of the day, New York City is Mecca and everything else is an extension from that. That's just the facts of the history, right? So you're basically battling because it's part of the culture. It's basically around you. But when does it become like a thing? Because I don't really know how it starts for you. I mean, I saw stories, but I was more interested in like your other views than say the battle rap history stuff. I was still learning about it. I've watched a couple. Like I watched that Shirt and Tie one. So when I did watch the Mook one. So when he brought up the Shirt and Tie and Shirtless guy, I'd actually seen both of those. I saw someone with Jins. I saw one with Disaster. So like I seen that. But I know I spanned the whole bunch. I listened to your music a bunch. I don't really know all the. Unfortunately, your Wikipedia page, it seems like somebody was doing some dirtiness on there. So I'm hoping that people can use this interview after to go update that, cite this as a source, and correct that shit. That's what we're doing right here.
Right. Yeah, I'm not good at like. I'm not always good with the self promotion or the like. So I've never had like a hand in my own Wikipedia page, and so whatever it is what it is. But yeah, so I mean, I went to college. I went to college in Ohio, a school called Oberlin. It's like a real like progressive liberal arts, like music and art college. I actually went for one semester and was just like, it's a tiny school in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, and going from like living in New York to that was just tough for me. Like walk like, where I live, it's like, as soon as you get away from my building, like there's millions of people around you, but nobody knows who you are. To being on a college campus where like the second you step out of your door, like everyone knows who you are. And it's like, it was just a little weird for me. So I took off second semester, and I was taking music classes at Manus, which is like a music college in New York. And then I was interning at a studio called Planet Sound, where like the Beatnuts recorded, and Half a Mill was recording. It had kind of fallen off as a studio. But I was like interning there and like selling weed and just making music, you know what I mean? And I ended up going back to Oberlin. And when I was there, it's like a famous music school too. So like linking up with like ill jazz musicians and just other kids from like all over the country that had their different perspectives on music and hip hop. And eventually I got involved. I have a friend of mine named Godwin who was involved. Like he was more focused on like being an entrepreneur. I was always like a hustler. Like I used to throw parties in high school to make money. I used to sell trees in high school to make money. But it was always kind of like outside of the traditional path. And my boy Godwin was more of a like, yo, there's ways to work within the system. And so he like basically enlisted me and was like, yo, there's this, one of the reasons I had gone to the school is because when I went to visit in 1999, they were having a hip hop conference with like Kweli and Common and Dead Prez. And I saw all these posters up for the weekend after I was there. And I was,
you still with us?
There's posters in the library for Common and Dead Prez. Like, I got to be like, what? Like my high school, there would never be nothing like that. Like no school would like sanction this type of music. You know what I mean? And so I want to be part of the school. But basically the student group that threw that event had like gone dormant. And my boy Godwin was like, yo, I want to revive the charter for this student group. And I want to have you involved because I know that you're a hustler. You're doing your thing in that way. So you know how to like move and network with people. And I know that you rap. And he was like, I want to throw a battle. So I got into organizing events. Like I said, I had thrown parties in high school where we booked this club called Fantasia that I don't think exists anymore. That used to be like by the South Street Seaport, and like told them that it was going to be college kids and people would be drinking, and it was like all high school kids with fake IDs and shit like that. But I really got into like, writing grant proposals to get funding from the school to bring artists out. And they used to have this like a book that they send to every college with like the list of artists and their booking fee. And so my boy Godwin is the one who really pulled me into the organization, and we revived it and we threw a battle. And then the next year I became the president of the organization, and the hip hop conference that I had been excited about in '99 was supposed to be like every other year. And so that year, 2005, was like one of the years that it fell on. And so we, me and my people there, my man Isaiah, Chris Ikpo, we like put a squad together and started raising money. I mean, we used to throw parties at the Masonic Temple, like in town. We used to rent out the Masonic Temple and throw like super degenerate parties. We used to drive to Indiana and buy Everclear and like just mix up this jungle juice and like raise cash that way. We had, raffles. We would go to every single student group and raise money from the student groups and be like, yo, it was a week-long event where we had panel discussions. We had workshops with like the Boys and Girls Club because Oberlin College is in like one of the poorest counties in America, in Ohio. And so we wanted to reach out to the local community. We had a breakdancing event. We had a rap battle. We had a DJ battle. We had a conference. We had these like political panel discussions. And so it was really a big event, and we would just go to each student group and be like, yo, go to the Filipino student group and let them know like, yo, one of the DJs in the battle is Filipino. If you guys can cover the cost of his plane ticket and his hotel. Just kind of going through all the different student groups to try to put the pieces together. And we actually ended up booking Talib Kweli and Immortal Technique and Medusa from the West Coast. And we brought out EOW. We brought out End of the Week to like host the whole event, to perform. They hosted, the battle, hosted panel discussions. Poison Pen was out there. Swave was out there. Zoo, Vice, Rest in Peace, Pro. Like everybody came out. And even the year prior when we did the battle, we brought out Swave came out for that. Mecca came out for that. And Vice and Breeze Everflow and hosted the battle. So like I was always still kind of like reaching back and trying to bridge the gap. You know what I mean? It's like in the summer I'm going to EOW, going to the open mic, and then when school is back in session, I'm out here in Ohio and I have an opportunity to really like, it's like there's a lot of money. Part of your college tuition is an activity fee, and that money is there for you to go get it. And that's what my boy Godwin was kind of like showing me. And I was like, if someone's going to get this money and this opportunity, it's going to be the people that are inspiring me from EOW. So that was really kind of like one of the big introductions to me of operating as an entrepreneur, like within the system. Before I was booking nightclubs and telling lies about who was going to be there and kind of scheming and selling trees and shit like that. But that was the first time that I was.
That was a lot.
In the mix.
So that was a lot. More knowledge nuggets, more fantastic, beautiful shit, honestly. But what I think is super interesting, and again, I like to find takeaways, because at work when you do a meeting, right, you sit down at the end. If you don't have your takeaways, the meeting's an absolute waste, right? Your actionable, specific items that people can work on. I figured you're a busy guy. You might appreciate what that means.
Yep, totally.
Community investment. You went somewhere different that was not your own. and you didn't come in and just try to floss. You actually came in and took from where you were at and brought to them as a gift. Right. And we can talk about end of the week and some stuff very soon, because I do think we need to talk more about that. But I think it's amazing that the attitude you had was not, yo, everybody has to come pay attention to me. It was different. It was, yo, look at this place we're at. Look at these opportunities that exist. Let me build. Let me create. Let me work with people. So I heard no I. It was all we. And that's very important. And I don't think people look for these little subtle nuances sometimes. So I just want to address that you actually brought this to the light in your story. So that was very cool too. We can all work on that. That means that when you see a guy like Russ, yeah, he has a team, okay? Like, when he says solo, it doesn't mean the same thing as what a lot of people think, right? He has a team. It's not literally by yourself. And I love the fact that you're kind of conveying that right at the jump. You went somewhere new, you gave back to the community, and you used the valuable resources of a team, working with people, giving, and you brought a place of where you're from, because that's what end of the week is, there. Yo, I learned a lot about the team sport thing of like hip hop and giving to you. There's a reason I'm wearing a Montreal's finest hat, right? Like, I want to make sure that Montreal's name is represented in this conversation with such a person like you. Don't have to say it a lot. Just put it there. It's what it is. So the fact that you did that is incredible. It just shows that even before you got into anything, where your heart was at. And I think a lot of people need to understand that when you hear legend, it's because their story had a lot of things like that involved in it that maybe don't get brought up. Like, I was put in my place that maybe instead of talking shit about Eminem, I should think about what he does for Detroit. I didn't really think about it. I don't know shit all. I don't even have like an opinion on it. But I need to Google that before like I can really consider any kind of real opinion on the guy, right? So anyway, I feel like that's the kind of shit that you brought to the table here with that. Anyway, let's talk about end of the week, because I know what that is, because, you know, end of the week's logo is literally on my side of the stream over here. So when did you get involved with them? Tell us about end of the week. Let's give fucking all the flowers we can to end of the week for the next little bit, because they fucking deserve it, and we're literally on their Zoom. It's just right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, when I was in Ohio going to school, like, I was just dying for culture, and like I was trying to build a, you know, reputation and a resume of music and performance. And so, like I said, it was like going to the Village Voice and looking in the back of the Village Voice, which was the newspaper, going to Fat Beats, the record shop, and they always had like flyers at the door and trying to see like what events were going on. You know what I mean? Like, this was the internet. This was the way of like seeing what was going on. And so, especially because I was in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, and actually in Ohio, I used to go. There was a battle like every Tuesday night in Cleveland that I used to go to, that was run by my man Suave Gotti, and there's a lot of dope MCs that I used to clash with out there. King Tut, this dude Superman, and this dude Osage, and then also King Dom, who was down with like copyright from Megahertz. But so I was even doing that in Ohio, like getting my boy. I didn't have a driver's license, just get my man to like drive me out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday to the open mic, like in the middle of fucking nowhere in Cleveland, just because I was just dying for that. And so, but then when I would come back to New York, to the city on breaks, or, you know, over the winter, over the summer, whatever it was, like I would hit those flyer spots hard, just like, yo, I need to go to everything while I'm here. And I just kept seeing EO Dub end of the week open mic. And then I went to the Pyramid, and I signed a list, and I think I went a couple times, because they used to, you know, they would see people on the list. Like, it's not just a free for all open mic, like it is, but then their job as hosts is to keep the show interesting. So they're gonna rearrange the list a little bit based on who they know is gonna keep the energy right. You know what I mean? And so like I went a couple times where I didn't show up early, so my name is low on the list, and then they're also throwing other people in the mix to keep the groove going. And it gets to the end of the night, and like now I'm going last, and there's no crowd there. And so I stepped to Big Zoo, who's one of the hosts, one of the founders and the hosts. Shout out to Big Zoo. And I was like, yo, like, I've been here 2 or 3 times, and I keep going on when like nobody's here. And like, I want more. And it's the era where we had pagers. I had a pager. And so Zoo gave me, I gave Zoo my pager number, you know what I mean? And I still remember like when he paged me, and I was on like Broadway and 96th Street, and there used to be a payphone right there, like right by the old Latin Quarter. And I can still just remember getting the page and being on the payphone and having that conversation with him of like, yo, like, I really want to be down, and I love what you guys are doing. And that was kind of the beginning of me like having a place there where I actually, you know, had more of a voice, you know what I mean? And yeah, it was just like, I didn't necessarily have full songs. I'd have like a hook and a verse, or I'd have, you know, like a 39 bar verse, like just MC shit, and didn't have like a stage show together necessarily, but needed an outlet to perform and just work on my craft and have people see me and get that experience. And like, you know, Bragging Rights, which was an old like classic battle that used to happen, wasn't happening anymore. You know, Lyricist Lounge wasn't happening anymore at that time. So End of the Week really was holding the torch in New York for like this open mic culture that this is like early 2000s.
I was gonna say it's about then if I know my history at all now. So that's cool. Just so that the people watching know. Also, totally, because of you, my channel just hit its highest record of 18 people at one time. So thank you, Iron Solomon, for blowing my fucking mind. Anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's basically it. It's just like,
so tell us a bit about performing at End of the Week. What is their format like? I know what it's like, but for the people that are watching, tell us what it's actually like to be at an End of the Week open mic at that time. A little bit of story time.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, it's mad diverse. Like we had, you know, everybody from the super hood, like thug rap dudes, to like, you know, a little weirdo white guy rapping about like traveling from the future and space cowboys and shit like that. And everybody kind of had a place. And the difference between just like a regular open mic and EO Dub is like a regular open mic might be a list, and they're like, all right, this person's coming to the stage next, bless you, and they're they'll come up and do their thing. And that it'll just be kind of dry, and it's like on you to keep it exciting. End of the week, you have like instant hype men, you know what I mean? And like as soon as they hear your song once, like they know when to jump in. In fact, you do the hook the first time, by the end of that first chorus, they're saying a chorus with you. And then the next time the chorus comes around, like they know the whole thing and they're doing ad libs, and they, you know, added an extra part that you didn't even think of, and you might go home and re-record it with the way that they flipped it. You know what I mean? Because they're really like showmen, you know, like they're not just MCs that know how to record a song and perform their own music. They know how to host an event, and they know how to make you look good. You know what I mean? Like I've never, like anyone who's ever performed at EO Dub and has, you know, whether it was an upcoming person nobody heard of, or, you know, an artist that came through that was super hot at the time, or if it was somebody who was like an old school legend that wasn't really buzzing, but they were getting love at EO Dub, like they'll all walk away being like, yo, like that was the illest show I've done, because you guys, the hosts, you know, Pro and Vice and Zoo, just like the way that they would hold people down and lift people up is amazing. You know what I mean? So it's like, it would be so exciting, you know, and then you step outside and people are smoking weed and rhyming and you know, like it was just like a whole scene, you know, it's like a social club and an open mic, you know what I mean?
So I totally empathize with what you're saying, because in my experience with End of the Week is, like, I'm in Quebec, right? So we got the chapter up here, but I don't really know much about it at the time. I know it's been coming for a whole lot. As an example, we got actually a bunch of End of the Week Quebec guys here watching this, right? Because they care a lot about your career, which is fucking cool, right? It's a big family. So with the current COVID times, they started a weekly open mic cypher on a Sunday night. Now, I've been in corporate world for such a long time that Thursday 11 p.m. start time was just terrible for me in my local city. Not going to happen. But somehow Zoom on a Sunday is a very different experience. Like, that's not the same thing at all, right? So I started participating. But as you were telling your story about how the love they give, dude, it's exactly it. To this day, to my experiences with End of the Week is exactly that. Everyone's been so incredible. Okay, like the whole thing, like y'all don't even understand. Like, there's an open mic later on tonight on like this very, you know, End of the Week Zoom thing that we're on right now. I'm gonna be logging back in later on. And it's going to be all love, man. Everybody gets love. If something goes wrong, it's love. It's just love all around. Did you ever participate in like the tournament thing they do with the competition side of it?
Yeah, the MC Challenge. Yep, I did the MC Challenge a bunch of times. I won it a few times and was in the Challenge of Champs. I never won the Challenge of Champs, but yeah, I mean, you know, I traveled with EO Dub, went to London and Paris and Berlin, and got to perform at, you know, the Rocksteady anniversary, which I grew up going to the Rocksteady anniversary and being in the crowd as a fan. So like, you know, I learned a lot about a lot of different components of being an artist, being a performer, being an event producer. And then I brought what I learned in college from my boy Godwin and throwing a hip hop conference. And I brought it there, and I was helping out on the back end of things, like writing sponsorship proposals and getting funding and you know, kind of bringing the entrepreneur side of it there as well. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a good outlet, and even working as an engineer in a recording studio, you know, because for a lot of years they had the recording studio, the Dojo, in Dumbo before
what is Dumbo. Challenge of Champs? Just because there's a bit of chat going on asking what that is.
Yeah, so the MC Challenge is the competition that they have, which is instead of battling like where you're dissing somebody and being negative, it was more like an Olympic event, like showcasing all of the different facets of what it means to be an MC. So you'll spit, you know, just a 16-bar verse over like a hard beat. Then you'll do an acapella. Then you could do the freestyle grab bag, where you're reaching into a bag and pulling items out and rapping about them as you're pulling them out. Then you'll do beat juggling, where the DJ is like switching the beat up and changing the speed, and they're seeing if you could really stick to the rhythm and stay in different pockets. And then is the cipher skills, where you'll be paired up with another person from the competition and maybe one of the hosts, and you'll just trade off 4 bars to show that you know how to play off someone else's energy. So instead of just you going head to head with somebody, it's like showcasing the diversity of your skills and how well rounded you are as an MC. And then they're judges and they vote and they rank you at the end. And so when you win the MC Challenge, then, you know, at the end of the year or quarterly, depending on how they're doing it, is a Challenge of Champions. So it'll be an MC Challenge that includes only winners of previous MC Challenges, and those would be not on the regular Sunday night at the Pyramid, but they would be at like a larger venue, like a Knitting Factory in New York. And yeah, I got to be a part of those as well. I never won the Challenge of Champions. One of the ones I was in, I think Pumpkinhead won. Rest in peace to PH. So I think it was me and PH and Blind Fury. I forget who else was in it, but yeah, a lot of just, you know, people I grew up like following on the underground in the 90s, kind of becoming my peers, or me having an opportunity to work alongside them through EO Dub, which was just ill to me. You know what I mean? Like I always have been a fan of, you know, I remember even as a kid, you know, putting Jay-Z next to Company Flow on a mixtape and being like, you know, feeling like, yo, I'm the only one doing this. Like that, like all the people I fucked with were either like mad underground heads or were into like more hood rap or commercial rap. And I felt like I was the one who was like, yo, like Company Flow and Jay-Z was my shit, you know? And I just always wanted to be different. Like I remember, and this is kind of a tangent, but I remember when, I think it was the Roots, like Things Fall Apart came out. And I remember there were kids in my school that I thought were like kind of corny, that were like, yo, like the Roots is out. And I was like, it ruined underground hip hop for me. And that's the day I like became a Jay-Z fan and like threw out all my 555 soul and was like, I'm wearing Versace from now on. You know what I'm saying? Like I was rebelling by being into underground hip hop. And then when everybody got into underground hip hop, I rebelled by being into commercial hip hop and being like, fuck that. Like
Okay, I got to give you some credit, dog, because I think a lot of people don't understand that the entrepreneurial spirit is part of hip hop, and it took me like literally so fucking long to learn personally. That's why we're all doing this now. Is because I started to figure out you have to build, and when you start building, you start to collect that community aspect. You start to attract people a little bit. But yo, right away off the jump, we have Iron Solomon, who's throwing fucking real big time events, also driven around community. And yo, I heard some of your current escapades and some of the big events. I got to know running is all I'm gonna say level of big events that you've been up to. So that just correlates into your far future and what you're up to in the current day. So I think it's so interesting that there's such a parallel between the world of hip hop, the world of corporate America, and your ability to blend these two things. Because personally, that's my whole brand, blending hip hop and corporate America. So that makes you like top notch in my fucking books is all I'm trying to say. Yo, thank you, Sammy C, for the follow. Anyhow, I just have to tell you that's so cool. When did you, like, I guess because of your parents and the exposure to all of that, you just kind of absorbed a lot of this business stuff. So let's just pause for a second and give some people some actionable. Say you're a young MC in an area, like maybe the ecosystem doesn't exist. What would be a little bit of your advice on how a person could throw a low-key hip-hop event and have it be a successful thing that people will actually want to come to, if you're okay with sharing that little tidbit with the world?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in areas where there was an infrastructure, in New York and stuff like that. But I know a lot of people that come from different areas where they had to create the community and create the fan base. You know what I mean? And I think something that has stopped me a lot in my career is wanting everything to be like it is on TV, or wanting to do everything in a way that's huge. But I think, anybody who's local or trying to build a name for themselves, like, you're like, yo, I got 18 people on the stream. Like, if you have 18 people that really fucking support you, that's better than trying to get, a million people that don't really care about you. You know what I mean? And so I think the most important thing is like knowing who your fan base is and holding on to and respecting and appreciating what you do have, because you can always build from that and really tapping in with the people that are tapping in with you. And I think for me, I always kind of like, I wanted a big name manager. I wanted a big name lawyer. I wanted these things that like, made me, miss opportunities, because now I'm with people that aren't prioritizing me. Now I'm looking at I remember I was on tour with the Bootcamp Clique on the West Coast, and I got to Seattle, and my boy Casa Overall, who's an ill artist, like jazz drummer, rapper, producer. Everybody should definitely check him out. Really interesting, like avant-garde, just futuristic artist. And he grew up with Macklemore, and this was like right when Macklemore was starting to like super bubble. And I remember reaching out to Macklemore in Seattle and being like, "Yo, come to the boot camp show. I'm opening up." And like, I kicked it with him at the show. And the next stop was some like small town, in like an hour from Seattle. And I was having so much fun in Seattle that I was like, "Fuck it, we're not going to the small town. We're just gonna kick it here." Like, I feel like maybe I could go to the studio here. I could go to the the dope clothing stores and like, and he was like, "Yo, like, don't sleep on that market. Like, you might think that's a small town, but it's an important part of the circuit, and people are going to show you love there." And like, at the time, I wasn't really ready for that gem, because I wasn't ready to kind of humble myself in that way. But like, really, if you're trying to go anywhere, you have to first be present where you are. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to, if you're in a swimming competition, like, you can't get that jump start if your feet aren't like firmly anchored against that wall to push you where you can actually cross the pond. You know what I mean? So I think the thing is to just like be where you're at and like tap in where you're at and find the people who are like you, who want to support you and are into what you're doing, and be yourself, and don't be ashamed or shy about how little or how many followers you have, or who you are, because I think, there's something for everybody. I mean, at this stage, like, the world is a big place and a small place, because we're all connected by the internet. We're all connected by this kind of like weird, shared experience of modern life that we're going through. And so I think, just do what you can, and let that be enough. You know what I mean? And aim high, but always appreciate the small. Everything is a success. Like, a home run is a home run, but 4 base hits is the same thing. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid of those base hits.
Yo, I think that's mad knowledge nuggets right there. Because, yo, market research, right? Rule number 1, understand your stuff. Like, I'm not even playing. Like, I can't even go down certain angles and try to front, like, whatever. It just doesn't work, right? And I'm not going to lie, just to give you your flowers. Like, I don't have that many people just by myself. It might be a certain name that I got to put into a little thumbnail and advertise a bit that got a lot of these people here. Right. So thank you so much for blessing me like that. This is huge for me.
For sure.
You might be a humble guy, but I'm just being real with you. That's what it is. You totally are fucking, this is big for me. And I just want you to know that.
I'm glad, man. That's dope.
And this conversation.
It cost me nothing. You know what I mean? I think like that's the thing, is like, we got to start giving what we have. Like, it costs me nothing to be here right now. You know what I mean? And if that adds value to you, then I'm creating value from nothing. You know what I mean? And to me, I like to create. Like, if I didn't create something in the day, I have a hard time going to sleep at night, because like, I just need to always make something and be like, I made that, I did that today, I accomplished that. And so like, if we can create value out of just time, like, that's the most like godly thing we can do, is to just make something where there was nothing. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the opportunity too.
Honestly, I just think it's great, because like, when I start to picture what this is going to be, like, I just started interviewing people, right? It just happened, and now I'm sitting here talking to you, and like, this kind of conversation is my dream. This is it. Like, and it's just really fucking cool, I guess, that you're doing this, because I don't know, like, you're teaching me shit. You're teaching me how to think a little bit, how I can maybe replicate your success, because check it. your success is the most interesting part. Like, I don't even know how much time you have left. I know I got told till 5, so I mean, we might not get through your whole story today. And I'm just letting everyone know.
Another one too, another time.
There you heard it, folks. I got him to say it on wax. He's down for a part 2. So for your questions that we're not maybe going to get to because it is what it is, it's just not relevant, right? This is a story. And when we get to the right part of the story, we're going to ask the right questions. Okay, that's what I'm trying to
we could do chapter 2, chapter 3, whatever. Like, this is a dope interview. You're doing a great job. Like, the stuff we're talking about is super interesting. And, Dutch is my brother, man, whatever he needs from me. So, like, if this is something that he, we're here. Well, I'll be here. Liddy broed up every single time. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my guy. Yeah.
I love it. Y'all should check out that Liddy Bros though. It's fucking good.
Yeah, it goes so hard.
Anyhow, so let's go back to your story a little bit. And thank you for the eardubs. You actually taught about 3 or 4 people what the fuck that was, and they're maybe going to come to that open mic tonight. So you did that, Iron Solomon. I didn't do that. You did that.
Word.
So that's what we want to do here. Big ups to the eardubs people on this call. Anyhow, let's go back to your story a little bit. Let's start to go back to that. You were describing you were just having that competitive spirit. You're in college. You're doing all these things since the early 2000s. At this point, are you actually like, what is the battle rap in such world even like? Let's start with that, right? Because to a lot of people, they're not going to know the history of battle rap. It's just some shit that's YouTube videos. And you're a unique person because you probably lived through a lot of it. So through your stories out over here, maybe we can document some of the actual history of the inception points of at least that era of battle rap and its evolution through your participation.
I've been thinking about this recently because I was thinking back on that specific era and how like for some reason, like when I was a teenager, like I didn't feel like I liked going out of my comfort zone, but I always did for some reason. And I remember when I was in high school, people going to visit colleges and like staying in a dorm room with like college kids that they didn't know. And as a kid, I was like, bro, like I could never fucking do that. Like I would never be comfortable like sleeping on somebody's couch I never met. And then for some reason, it's just like being so motivated to want to have, a career as an MC and be involved in hip hop. Like, and I guess also being in Ohio in the middle of nowhere where there wasn't as much for me to latch onto. As the internet became more of like a viable thing, there was it mcbattles.com, I think, Dutch, I don't know if you remember that. I think it was Tone Deaf's website, and it was like you could watch battles on there that he uploaded, but it would take mad long to load the battle. The quality would be like super shitty. This is before YouTube. But I would still like go online and try to get newspapers and figure out where's the local battle. And I would go into Cleveland and battle. And I won the battle of the year there and was on the cover of the like music section in the Cleveland scene, which was ill. And then to speak to what you said about always, the community, it's like I'm this kid, white kid, especially from New York, and I win the battle of the year. I called up like everybody that I knew in Cleveland who had been in the battle and was like, yo, like I want all of you at the cover shoot. Like I want all of us on the cover. You know what I mean? And so I still have to post that. I'll post that clipping and maybe I'll send it to you too. But I still have the image of all of us like on the cover of the music section of the Cleveland scene, which was like the local newspaper. But I also used to like take trips like everywhere to battle, and these were like tournament style freestyle battles where it's like they're over beats and you have 16 MCs or 32 MCs and there's a pyramid and people get knocked out and then you move on to the next one and the winner of this battle battles that person until there's one person left. And so there were definitely also the kind of acapella written street battles, but I feel like it wasn't as common in terms of like you could battle for money that way. And so I literally like there's a few battles where like I would take my rent money in college and I would like book a flight somewhere and be alone. And like I went to this event called Break Lana that was in Atlanta. And at the time there would be like a breakdancing battle and an MC battle at like almost every event. So I would be, sleeping on somebody's couch, like with the breakdancers sleeping on the floor. And then the battle is the next day. And then I would, I was alone. Going back to what I was saying about not feeling comfortable, sleeping in somebody's college dorm that I didn't know. All of a sudden I was like, fuck it. This is, I got to go outside my comfort zone. And I would be sleeping on somebody's floor that I never met and going to the battle. And I remember they lost my luggage in Break Lana, so I was like unshaven and had like my airplane Timbs instead of my crispy Timbs on. You know what I mean? Timbs and jean shorts and shit. New York shit. And then I convinced some friends of mine to, stay at school during a holiday break because there was a battle in Kentucky. And I had my man like drive us to Kentucky because I didn't have a car. I didn't even have a driver's license. So me and 2 of my boys like drove to Kentucky and I went to this battle in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And actually for some reason, Awkwards was in that battle. And he and I battled in that. And this dude, Deuce Leader, who was like this like dude that was like at every fucking rap battle back in the day, filmed it, but he I don't know. The footage is probably in his basement somewhere. But I remember driving back and we ran out of blunts. Like we were smoking blunts the whole way, like blunt. And I was selling trees, so that the weed was endless, but the cigars weren't. And we were in Kentucky, which is like tobacco country. You know what I'm saying? And we see all these barns. And this is again before the internet, like before smartphones. I mean, the internet is around, but not the way it was. So we're operating off of maps, like literally books with maps, trying to like get from Cleveland, Ohio to Covington, Kentucky. And we're in these winding back roads in Kentucky, and there's these barns where they're drying tobacco leaves. You know what I'm saying? So we pull over and ran into the barn and like snatched a tobacco leaf, like a Fronto leaf, and like pulled into a state park and like rolled up in the Fronto leaf and like puffed the L like of a fresh dried tobacco in in Kentucky. And then one more story from that time is like I found a battle in Rochester, New York, which is like a bunch of like 4 or 5 hours north of New York City. And I had a friend in college who was from Rochester, and I was like, yo, man, like, you know anybody out there I could stay with? Like, I don't have bread for a hotel. Like, I'm gonna take the Greyhound up there. You know, the prize is $250. Like, I need to win it, or the trip isn't worth it. And he was like, yeah, my boy's little brother still lives up there. You could go link with him. So somehow I get in touch with this kid, his friend's little brother, and these are like crust punk, like dirt, you know, they're like dirty punk kids that are also into like, you know, Def Jux and all the real underground hip hop, and they're living in somebody's attic. So now I'm chilling with people I just met, sleeping on the floor of the attic, and like I'm rolling around Rochester with them, and they're pointing out like the dumpsters that are good to get like thrown out food in. Like, yo, that dumpster's official. Like, they're right by the bagel shop. Like, you know, on a Wednesday they throw out the bagels from the night before, and like, you know, just to go to some rec room battle with breakdancers and some people from Rochester. And like, I remember the trophy was like 6 feet tall. I had to take the trophy apart to fit it on a Greyhound to get home. You know what I mean? So like, that just goes to show the kind of like effort that you would have to put in just to do anything. You know what I mean? And so like that was the grind I was on, and I was doing it to get footage, to meet people, to get recognition. And then I would take that footage and record it to a VHS or a DVD and mail it to Scribble Jam to get into another battle. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of just like, yo, whatever the fuck I can do, like any opportunity is an opportunity for me back then. It was like, I got to go wherever I can go. And if I have to spend my rent money to get there, then I have to win, because then I need my rent money. You know what I mean? And it was just like everywhere I went, I was going alone or like convincing people to drive me somewhere, and just really like whatever opportunity I could. You know what I mean? So I think the lesson with that for this day and age is like, the internet is such a big place. There, like, you don't have to get on Greyhound. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much that you can do. And you know, I was spending days and hours and money to get to places just to reach 10 people. So if you can reach 10 people for free now, that's super valuable. You know what I mean? So that's what the scene was like at the time. And then I used that to you know, I used that to parlay. I forget how I got onto the Underground Sessions DVD, but like whatever it was, you know, they got in touch with me, Underground Sessions, and then they were filming like the part 2 of their DVD. And that must have been right when I graduated college, like 2005. And YouTube was just kind of emerging, and I didn't even know what it was. But my boy Real Six, who's a graffiti writer and a skateboarder and a, you know, a videographer who was putting that DVD together, shout out to him, and my other man Bal from the Lower East Side, who were involved in the Underground Sessions DVD. They uploaded the footage to YouTube, and I literally found out what YouTube was by somebody calling me and being like, bro, like, you have like 60,000 views on this battle on YouTube. And at that time, it was like that was viral at that time.
Big facts.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what YouTube is. And so I learned about YouTube from the Underground Sessions DVD, put me on there.
I need to pause in your story because as my homie Spades, my little moderator guy, big up Spades, he's keeping us down in the chat. It reminded me that we did forget a question I was supposed to ask you, and it's important, I think, that we do. It's relevant to your story that we've covered already. Tagging, and we'll throw in dancing. How important, because we already got 2 of the elements that you're involved in, the beats and the MCing. What about the other 2 elements? Why don't you just kind of give us, in the last part of this interview today, a recap of your story with tagging and, if relevant, dancing?
Yeah, so I was never like nice at breakdancing, but I always had like homies who did it, and then I always spent a lot of time with breakdancers because all the MC battles would always be like breakdancing battle in one room, rap battle in the other room, or, you know, breakdancing battle Friday, rap battle on Saturday. So I was always around breakdancing, and I love breakdancing. You know what I mean? I remember like reading an article in Rolling Stone, because like my pops had a Rolling Stone subscription that was about like J.A. and Sane and Smith, and you know, these are like graffiti legends in New York. And I remember, like, you know, I didn't even think about it. It's like in New York, you don't even, like, it's such a backdrop to everything that's going on that you really just don't even think about it. Thank you. You just take it for granted that like there's paint all over the trains. And that was like 6th grade, you know, 12 years old, probably, that article came out. And I remember being like, wow, like there's people behind this and there's a story behind this. And then right away I was like copying all the pieces and the fill-ins that I saw in that article. And you know, this really hot girl in my junior high school was like, can you do my name? You know what I mean? And so that was another thing where I was like, yo, hip hop is the shit, man. Like, I need, like, this girl ain't checking for me. Like, she's older than me, but she wants me to do her name, Mindy. Shout to Mindy. And so, yeah, I just loved it, man. Like, I just love, like, you know, the thing about hip hop that I think is so beautiful is that it's democratic in that, like, you know, you don't need anything to do it. Like, you just need your voice to be able to rap. Like, you need a marker to be able to write graffiti, and you make up these names that are like superhero names, and you battle, and they're like, yo, he destroyed him, he killed him, yo, he left Earth. Like, you're just a kid, and you know, especially someone like me who's you know, I'm 5'8" Jewish kid. Like, I'm not dunking no basketball, I'm not like tackling nobody.
I relate, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's my path to greatness. And it's like, you know, it's also, I think as a kid, it's like you see so much fucked up shit in the world that, you know, for me, like I said, I was always about fairness and right and wrong. And you feel powerless over the fact that the world is an unjust place. And to have the power to like step into a circle of people and be superhuman is like amazing to me, you know? And so seeing like these characters on a wall, like these names, and it's literally, you're taking a word and you're you're just shaping the word and giving it colors in a way that has energy and motion and aggression, and like that's such a powerful fucking thing to be able to do. And then the anonymity, it's just like a total superhero scenario, and it's really like it's the cultural key to being able to be a superhero. You know, like you can be a superhero in hip hop, and that was the illest shit to me. So I used to, you know, go to Bomb the System, which was like legendary graffiti shop, like not too far from my high school. We would just walk and catch tags all the way there. Go to Bomb the System, you know, go to my man's crib, catch tags all the way there. You know, smoke some weed, and then go back out. And then on the weekends, you know, have a sleepover. You know what I'm saying? And then my parents go to sleep and like sneak out at 2 a.m. and go bombing and come back at 6 a.m. and like scrub the paint off of our hands. And you know, it was an obsession for me for sure. And you know, I got it's so funny, like this kid Luck, L-U-K, who's from Queens. Like he was going through a lot of personal shit in his life, and his pops brought him to the synagogue where I was at in Manhattan. And so one of my big graffiti connections was through Luck at my synagogue, who is one of the founders of Smart Crew, which is like Mayhem Loren and Action Bronson. And so I used to go out to Queens to go bombing with Mayhem Loren and my man Luck and this kid Psycho 13. And I got arrested. I was probably like 16, and I got arrested like by yeah.
I want to hear about that, but we have a question, serious question. What was your superhero tag name?
I wrote AM1, but I would write like AYEM to like spell it out phonetically, and then I would write, you know, other shit that I would just fuck around with. But yeah, I was nice. Like I was always ill with the lettering. My boy just sent me some shit that I did like in his piece book in high school. But when I got arrested, like I just I was kind of pussy with like bombing. Like I was always shook of the cops, shook of people seeing. And then when I got arrested, and like I just remember being like, you know what, like I love this shit so much, but the people who become great in this arena like don't give a fuck. And like I give a fuck. Like my parents are involved in my life. I have grandparents that I don't want to disappoint, because I remember feeling like so much like shame for like my grandparents to find out that I was like I'm the oldest cousin on one side out of like 10 cousins, and like I remember feeling like fuck, like I'm fucking up as the like big cousin. Like my grandparents are gonna be disappointed, and so I have so much respect and appreciation for the culture that if I wasn't gonna like really do it, then I wasn't gonna do it. So that's like getting arrested for graffiti and realizing that like you need not just the talent to be creative artistically, you need the like I don't give a fuck spirit to really be a king. Yeah, so like I was like I don't have that, so I'm gonna just focus on rap, because like I need to focus on something that I have the heart to do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is a joint. I don't know if heads can see that.
I can see that. Can y'all see that? We'll see it in a second on the stream. Amazing, dog. Yeah. That's a nugget. Yeah. We can see it on the stream. Yes, dog. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna start digging. I have like boxes of photos and shit, like, you know, because I did my thing a little bit, but I don't talk about it that much, like I said, because I have so much respect for it. Like I didn't take it to any kind of level where it's noteworthy beyond it was something that I loved.
So I'm gonna be real with you. The only reason I brought it up is because your fans came on my stream. They're also, I guess, shared fans of ours. That's cool. That's a cool sentence.
Yep,
and they asked. They wanted to know. So maybe this is worth talking about for those folks.
I love graffiti, and one of the things that I'm working on now is with my boy CH, Charlie the Hustler on Instagram. He's Charlie_the_hustler, a legendary graffiti writer from New York. We're working on some art and merch projects. Our company is called Good Grief Limited. The Instagram is just at Good Grief Limited, and you know, we're doing a lot of really dope like design work and stuff. And
that's amazing.
Have some stuff. I probably have some stuff that I can show that isn't out yet, but yeah, it's all will be coming soon. So I'm kind of getting back involved in the graffiti world a little bit.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you shared that with us. And I thank you again for all those knowledge nuggets, man. That was some crazy shit. So that superhero thing, weirdly enough, it's not the first time I heard that theory. And the first time I heard that theory came from my boy who's obsessed with comic books and wrestling. And he found the comparison of Wu-Tang Clan, comic books, and wrestling, and how each of the Wu-Tang, it's not that different than a WWE storyline when you really break it down at that level. Totally. And it really does explain how he always he put me onto the theory. We're talking like 5-6 years ago, onto the theory of how hip-hop is really just combatants of heroes and villains, right? So like Wu-Tang could be villains, Rakim's a hero. Right, and it really is a Marvel universe, and that's one of the funniest fucking parts of digging through the crates of hip hop history is unraveling that. Just like a little quick one.
That's one of the first things we're releasing. Actually, I have this hat that's like a baseball team that's like the Crate Diggers.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah, this is an early sample right here. Crate Diggers baseball hat. It's wool, and then this patch on the side says minor league champs, like MINER. Minor league champs, and then instead of the World Series years, it's got the record speed 78, 45, and 33.
Okay.
And then the box that it comes in, my man Runback Zach from Rotten Island Records put together a crate of records, like collectible records, and then my boy Khalif Gamble, who's the son of Kenny Gamble from Gamble and Huff, is my man, who's a still photographer, and he photographed the crate, and then we put it together. So this is actually the box. This record crate is the box that the hat's gonna come in.
See the attention to detail there? Everything had an explanation ready to go. Every fucking thing had a thing ready to go. Yo, man, thank you so much.
By the way, that hat was Sofrito drip, bro.
Good looking, bro.
That
Good
hat
looking.
is nice. That look clean.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, hell yeah. That's
that
like
does.
some of the merch shit that I'm working on is like these concepts, bringing the MC shit and the graffiti shit like just to another realm and trying to have it be
You
layered
just
and,
got to
and
big ups from
thoughtful
the
and
comments
conceptual.
on
You know
that,
what I mean?
man. People are seeing the level of effort
That's
you
what's
put
up,
in.
man.
Yo, you don't even have to explain it because it's so
Hell yeah.
transparently good. Like you just thought that. Yo, it's like a beats.
Word,
Like,
word.
yo, when you think about beats and shit like that, we all know that it's a little bit. It's the package. You want to get that premium experience.
Right.
That's something that caught my eye about just to give Flacco Bayless flowers. The Liddy Bros drop with their fucking thing. Like
Hell
that
yeah.
comes from that big old package, right? Where like you had to get
Yup.
that box and he gave you something so valuable just to give Flacco his flowers that you were able
Hell
to
yeah.
wear it on this interview and it's dope.
Yup.
Right?
Hell yeah, I
It
love
looks
this
dope.
shit.
It's just what it is.
Yeah, it's fire, man. I got the whole, I got the rest of the stuff upstairs, but like, yeah, I love what he's doing. And when he was like, yo, I got this thing, I was like, bro, this is exactly the type of shit I'm trying to work on. And it helped like give me some more inspiration and confidence to be like, this is the way, you know what I mean? And yeah, this shit is fire to me. It's dope. I rock it in my regular life, and I had to have it for the interview, you know what I mean?
So
And I love the
Thank you.
songs, man. That shit is so dope, man.
Yo,
Yeah,
it's actually a great
Thank
project.
you so much.
We're gonna put links in description for all the videos when we get the full thing
Yes.
out, etc. But yo, if I only have 5 minutes left, like we can chat till you're gone. But I want to make sure I get the sound bit of my closing done, if you don't mind, while you're still here with
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah,
So
hell
yo, thank y'all for watching this for real. I appreciate the whole world, like that you're here at this huge moment for us. Like this is big. I literally got to debut a logo in the middle of our stream. Throw it up. The Bridge the Gap thing's real now. It's fucking
Dope.
cool. You blessed it. You were like the christening of this moment for real. So thank you for giving us
Dope.
that. That's such a gift, honestly. Let us know in the comments of whatever platform you're watching this on, what you think, all that good stuff. Ask questions. The man already said part 2 is a thing, so we're gonna figure that out when we
Yep.
can all make it happen, because again, this was fucking fun for me. I had a blast. This is like, yo, I was maybe feeling kind of sad a little bit, a little mopey, and now I feel great. My whole life feels like,
Dope.
damn, life is good again. You know what I'm saying?
Dope.
So thank you for that, because yo, I love it. The comments are lit. There's still 14 people here with us, dude. This wasn't like a
Dope.
drop off. This is like some people was latching onto the knowledge nuggets we
Dope.
shared. I can see Cool Man Logan, who's been in the chat, nodding his head in our Zoom call over there. Big fucking facts, right? So yo,
Dope.
thank you for that. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadam, Secret Spatter, Jonathan Barnes, CJ Black, Hurricane, Linda Williams.
I feel like we can skip the last 40 seconds.
Agreed.
Yeah, so that was fun. It's so weird to like watch me in the past do this. Like it's so weird. There's a few moments I'm just cringing, like, oh, what I would do differently now if I knew what I knew now then. But then also, it wouldn't have been the same interview.
Right. Growth, man. Growth.
Yeah, good time. Yeah, I guess I don't know what else you wanted to do on this stream. I was able to grab a bunch of timestamps I thought were pretty interesting. Chris lost power in the middle of the stream because apparently there's mass power outages going on all around these parts.
Looks like I might be joining them this summer.
Joining who? Oh, power
Chris.
outages.
Mm-hmm.
Once Trump does the tariffs thing, yeah, I keep seeing people talking wild about all the policies, and I'm like, yo, whatever about the rest of that shit. But I don't think people really understand this tariff situation and how retaliatory it's gonna get for everyone.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I started looking into solar power generators.
Yeah, it's probably good. Yeah, otherwise it's gonna go up, what, 25%, just more expensive overnight. That seems like a big jump. Yo, I can hear the wind on my side. It's gonna be one of those nights. But Bonnie's hoping we lose power so that she doesn't have to work tomorrow.
Hilarious.
Yeah, meanwhile, I was sitting there on the stream. Chris told me he lost power. I'm watching people post about how, like, the power outages all over, and I'm like, oh, I hope it doesn't clip in the middle of this. There's nothing we can do at that point. That's bye-bye internet.
Bye, bye, baby.
But it worked out. Yeah, so, I don't know. If there's nothing else, I guess we could move on with our nights.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for watching. Those of us, I don't know who's still with us, but appreciate y'all being here with us. We'll be back next Monday with the next interview, kind of keeping things going. Appreciate everyone being here, and live long and prosper, everyone.